Two gang members found guilty in the murder of Charles McCormick. In the last hour, a jury finding Hakeem Robinson, known as Ksoo, guilty for first-degree murder. Take a look at your screen right now because we're about to show you a picture showing how Ksoo reacted to the verdict. You can see him there sitting next to his attorney with his head in his hands. Another jury finding Leroy Whitaker, also known as ATK Scotty, guilty of first-degree murder earlier this afternoon. The victim, Charles McCormick, was shot and killed at a Merrill Road shopping plaza back in 2020. Heather Crawford is joining us now with our legal analyst with a closer look at the trial. Heather.
All right, Anthony, thank you. And attorney Shannon Schutt, our legal analyst, who's not affiliated with this case, is here now to give us her perspective. And I want to start by saying that these two defendants tried together in the same trial, but they had two separate juries. Your reaction to both of them being found guilty by two separate juries?
Certainly, this is a wild case and big impacts for the legal community, for the local community, but certainly there was a lot for the juries to consider. And like you said, there were two different juries. They were listening to the evidence that was relevant to their particular defendants, and they determined that the state had a good case here.
A lot of people watching this high-profile case, the state's two key witnesses were two confessed killers. One of them was Ksoo's own father. How do you think that played in to these verdicts?
You know, the juries come here and they expect to hear a case from the state of Florida, and I doubt that they were expecting to hear from two confessed killers, from the father of the defendant himself. It brought a lot of drama to the courtroom, but it didn't change the facts of what they were testifying to. And certainly the jury had the right to consider whether or not they believed these confessed killers, and the jury ultimately determined that they found them credible.
Now, I heard Whitaker's father today say that an appeal is likely. Take us through what happens now with these guilty verdicts. What happens next?
So the next stage is, of course, sentencing, and Judge Salvatore will get those defendants sentenced in the next month or two. There may be some other procedural issues that the state and the defense will have to take care of, but ultimately they will be sentenced, and then they will have 2 years or 30 days to appeal the sentence and the conviction, and then 2 years to appeal other issues that might have been arising in this case. But, you know, we always expect an appeal. It doesn't mean that anything will come out of it.
Was there anything that stood out to you in this case that you thought, yes, this is grounds for appeal?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's always a challenge when you have two juries, and certainly there could have been issues with evidence as to relevance, or, you know, tampering, or, you know, tainting the jury in some way because they heard something that was not meant for one of the juries. That's just a tricky situation, but I anticipate we'll likely see an ineffective assistance of counsel motion in the future.
And for Ksoo's jury, they started deliberating today, and it was only about 3.5 hours before they reached that verdict. Were you surprised that it happened so quickly?
You know, again, there were so many issues for the jury to consider, but the state clearly did a really good job getting the jury prepared for the many issues that they were going to face, including confessed killers, parents. You know, I know that the jury asked about a family tree in this case, so there were a lot of things for them to consider. But when you go through a concise case, it is possible to get a verdict very quickly. And in this case, the jury did their work and they were able to go home.
And just real quickly, how much time are they looking at?
These are mandatory life sentences. So I anticipate that they will be life sentences.
All right. Shannon Schutt, thank you so much for coming in.